Hello everyone and welcome to YouTube channel Slow RTS. Today is a good day. Let's get started. And just like that, we are diving deep into a topic that's just, well, it's absolutely exploding right now. AI animation.
Yeah, the potential, the creativity, it's incredible.
Exactly. And you brought us this really fascinating set of materials research, looking into user-friendly tools, some really technical breakdowns, even insights on storytelling from a legend in filmmaking. So our mission today, wading through all this great info, is really to cut through that noise, pull out the most crucial bits, and give you a really clear picture of AI animation right now.
It's moving so fast, isn't it? Almost week to week something changes. But what's really striking is how it's making these powerful creative tools, well, more accessible.
Democratizing it almost.
Yeah, tasks that used to need, serious skills, expensive software. Now you can often start for free, maybe just with a prompt. But as we'll get into, there's definitely complexity there too.
Oh, for sure. Technical challenges, big questions about art itself.
Right.
So whether you're totally new to this, maybe you're just seeing those wild AI videos pop up online and wondering how they do that. Or maybe you're already a creative pro thinking about adding these tools to your workflow. Or you're just prepping for a project, need to get up to speed fast without, drowning in information.
Then this deep dive, based on the research you pulled together, is really for you.
Yeah, we're going to start accessible, look at the deeper tech stuff for more control, touch on those timeless art principles, and even the bigger picture implications.
Think of it as your shortcut, yeah. Getting the core ideas, the potential, straight from this curated info. Let's unpack it.
Okay, let's start right there with accessibility. Because that's one of the biggest takeaways from the research, isn't it? How much lower the barrier to entry is now.
Oh, absolutely. It wasn't long ago that animation meant, complex timelines, keyframes, rigging.
Steep learning curves, expensive gear.
Exactly. And now these AI tools, they just remove so much of that friction. And a lot of them are free to start or have really generous free tiers. Anyone can basically jump in and experiment.
That's the thing, yeah. It's not usually one magic button, though some get close.
Yeah, not quite. It's more like using a set of specialized tools, right? Each one tackling a different part of that traditional pipeline.
Like one for concept art, maybe.
Yeah, or one for character design, another for the background. Then you feed those into something that adds motion.
Another for lip syncing.
And then maybe bring it all together in a regular video editor.
Yeah.
The research really highlighted how that modular approach makes it manageable, especially for newcomers.
Right. And often it starts with just needing an image, right? A visual concept. But maybe you can't draw or don't have time for traditional asset creation.
And that's where the AI image generators come in. My research showed they're a fantastic starting point. Recraft AI kept popping up.
I saw that too. Praised for its generous free plan, specifically.
Yeah, and the insight there wasn't just it's free, it was the volume of credits. 100 images up front, then 50 daily.
That's huge.
It lets you iterate like crazy on ideas without constantly worrying about hitting a limit. That's crucial for just exploring visuals.
Leonardo AI was another one mentioned in the material for generating those initial assets.
Right, also has a free tier. And the research indicated it's pretty strong for consistent characters and detailed backgrounds.
Which, again, lets you create these professional-looking assets, characters, backdrops.
Without needing those traditional art skills.
Yeah.
Drawing, painting, gone. Just the ability to visualize and prompt effectively. It's transformative for, solo creators, small teams.
Okay, so you've got your visual using one of these tools.
Yeah.
Character, scene, whatever. Next up, making them. Bring it to life.
Yeah, and this is where those simpler image-to-video tools enter the picture. Hyoa seemed to be a top recommendation for beginners in the sources.
User-friendly interface was a big plus, I saw.
Definitely. But beyond that, the deeper insights seem to be how it bundles features that tackle those common AI animation headaches.
Like what?
Well, free credits to start, that's pretty standard. But things like director mode stood out in the research.
Right. There wasn't just random wiggling.
Exactly. It gives you control over camera moves, zooms, pans, rotations, stuff that usually needs complex keyframing. With director mode, it's just sliders, basically. Adds that cinematic feel instantly.
And the consistent character tool. That sounded important.
Very. It tries to fight that infamous AI identity crisis where characters morph frame to frame. It's not perfect, sure, but the fact that it's addressing it, even in early versions, that's a big insight if you're trying to tell a story with the same character.
And having a simple audio tool for voiceovers right there, too, just streamlines things for a beginner.
Keeps it all in one place, yeah.
My reading also pointed to other tools for different types of motion from stills. Leopex.
Ah, yeah, that one focuses on depth animations. Turning a 2D image into like a 2.5D scene with parallax.
Simpler animation, maybe, but adds that visual interest quickie. Feels more dynamic than just a flat image.
Exactly. And tools like Prom AI, Genmo, also mentioned for image to video, you noted Genmo had more flexibility in older versions.
Yeah, which just shows how fast this stuff changes, features evolve. Gotta stay updated.
True. And for something more playful, experimental, Meta's animated drawings project came up in my research.
Oh yeah, the T-pose thing.
Right. Less about pro-production, more about AI understanding form. It takes a simple character drawing T-pose, white background needed, and applies animation cycles.
Shows the underlying research into AI understanding, like basic skeletons, kinematics.
Even if the output's simple, yeah.
Now, what about making characters talk? That's a specific need.
Definitely. And the sources highlighted tools built just for that. HeyGen and DID were mentioned.
Taking a static image, an audio track, and boom, talking head.
And the insight isn't just that they do it, but how they automate that super complex process of facial animation, lip syncing, makes it incredibly efficient for, presentations, narrated stuff.
Bringing old photos to life, even.
Yeah. And Lalamu was specifically noted for lip syncing, suggesting maybe it has more refined control there, more accuracy matching audio to mouth shapes.
So some tools specialize for higher quality in one specific tricky area.
Seems like it.
What if you've already got video, home movies, stock footage, maybe other animated clips, and you want to change the style or the content using AI?
Oh, the vid-to-vid concept. Video to video, that was explored too.
It's powerful, right? Keep the original motion, the composition, but slap on a whole new look.
Exactly. LensGo was cited, offering daily free credits just for animating uploaded videos. Seems focused on letting you experiment with your own footage right away.
And Kyber AI sounded particularly powerful, flexible for vid-to-vid.
Yeah, my reading suggested it can take image, video, even audio as input and transform it. But the key insight with Kyber seemed to be the adherence level control.
Right. Tell me about that.
It basically lets you decide. How much should the AI stick to the original video's structure and motion versus how much should it follow your prompt's style and content?
Oh, okay. So low adherence means more transformation.
Yeah, the AI gets more creative. High adherence keeps it closer to the source video's choreography. That level of control over the transformation, that's significant insight for users needing more than just a basic filter.
Runway ML was another one mentioned alongside Kyber. Seems like a leader there too.
Often cited for various video styles. And Moon Valley came up as like an emerging tool, still in beta, accessed via Discord.
Yeah, which highlights how fast new stuff pops up. Often in those kinds of community-driven spaces first, like Discord betas. That's an insight into the development culture itself.
Definitely rapid, community-driven.
And for the open source fans, comfortable with a bit more tech setup, my research pointed to Sad Talker.
Right, on Hugging Face.
Yeah.
For talking heads from images and audio. Needs installation can be slower, but it's free, powerful tech underneath.
And with Sad Talker, you get a peek at the parameters that control quality, even at that level.
Yeah, the sources mention things like expression scale, how animated the face is, choosing the right output resolution, like 512 by 512 maybe for speed versus quality.
Pre-processing options, full processing recommended for better results.
And using things like GFT gun for enhancing realism, fixing artifacts. These settings give you insight into the kind of knobs being turned behind the scenes, even in the simpler web tools. Lets you tweak if you're willing to dive in.
Okay, moving beyond just animating existing images or video, the sources also covered tools for more structured, template-based animation, like for marketing, explainer videos, that kind of thing.
Render Forest was highlighted there. Super easy to use, fast rendering, lots of templates.
The insight with those template tools like Render Forest seems to be speed and simplicity for specific tasks, right?
Exactly. Great for churning out short, good-looking clips fast. Social media, presentations, perfect. But the trade-off, noted in the material, is less flexibility for really custom long-form stuff. It's efficiency over granular control.
Animaker sounded similar. Beginner-friendly, templates, assets, affordable. Good for social media, education.
Yeah, the insight there is that combo of template guidance plus a decent asset library. Lets you assemble scenes quickly. And you mentioned Animaker also does AI voiceovers.
Yeah, my reading noted that, positioning it as a more integrated solution for certain content types.
Then you have the really cutting-edge stuff, like Sora AI from OpenAI, described as advanced, user-friendly, high-quality.
With features like AI character and motion gen, customizable templates, real-time collaboration.
The insight there is really the direction the top-tier AI is heading. Better fidelity, more integrated workflows, collaboration, but being newer, the sources pointed out. Fewer templates, shorter track record compared to established players.
And then on the pro end, established tools like Adobe Animate are starting to integrate AI features.
Right. The insight isn't that it's an AI tool for beginners, but how traditional pro software is adding AI to augment existing workflows. Still has that high control, steep learning curve, pricey subscription. Very different from the free, accessible tools we started with.
Toonly also got to mention, just for drag-and-drop explainer videos.
Yeah, super focused niche. Makes it incredibly easy within that format, but very limited outside it.
So wow, that's a huge range of tools, each with its own strengths, applications, simple image to video, structured templates. But even with all these generators creating clips, the material made it clear, you probably still need a traditional video editor, right?
Oh, absolutely essential. The AI tools are great for generating the pieces, the segments, characters, effects, but they usually don't handle the overall story flow, the pacing, combining clips, adding text, music, the final polish.
That final assembly stage. CapCut was suggested as a free, decent option for that.
Yeah. The insight is AI automates the generation, but human creativity and traditional editing skills still totally vital for the composition and the storytelling.
So looking at this whole landscape, it's like a menu, really. Depends what you want to animate, how tech-savvy you are, how much control you need. But those free and accessible tools, a fantastic way for anyone to just dip their toes in.
Yeah, it's about finding the right tool for the specific job in the animation process you need help with. Character design, motion, lip sync.
Okay, so we've spent a good bit of time on the accessible tools, the how of getting started. But, animation isn't just making pixels move, it's storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Emotion, world building.
Absolutely.
And the material you provided had some really fascinating insights from James Cameron, actually, reminding us of those fundamental visual storytelling principles that are still crucial, even when AI is doing the visual heavy lifting.
His perspective is great because he's always pushed the tech envelope in movies, Avatar, Terminator 2.
Groundbreaking stuff.
But his focus was always using tech to serve the story, the characters.
Exactly. And one key takeaway from his thoughts, according to the sources, screenwriting rules. He says basically, know the rules, read the books, understand structure, tropes, audience expectations. But the crucial bit, the insight, is his kicker. And then just break them.
Right. It's not just rebellion for rebellion's sake.
No. It's about understanding why things work so you can deliberately mess with them to surprise people, engage them differently. Knowing the foundation lets you deviate effectively.
And applying that to AI animation. Well, the AI might naturally generate stuff following common tropes because of its training data.
Right.
But if you know the rules of filmmaking, you can prompt the AI to break those patterns or edit the AI output to subvert expectations.
And he really hammers home that a movie is only as good as its characters. That came through strong in the material.
Characters, everything.
Protagonists need clear wants, motivations. Antagonists need depth, not just mustache-twirling evil, the Sarah Connor example from Terminator.
Yeah, her transformation from ordinary person to, Sarah Connor. You care because her journey feels real, resonant.
And in AI animation, where making characters look cool is getting easier. Maybe that character depth is even more important now.
Could be. The AI renders the image. You provide the soul, the story, the conflict.
Karen also encourages being a sponge, drawing inspiration from everywhere, art, science, dreams, whatever.
That synthesis of diverse influences.
Yeah. For AI artists, it means the quality of your prompts, your concepts, depends on how rich your own internal library is. Generic prompts get generic results. Obscure art history plus cutting-edge science. Maybe that gets you something new from the AI.
It shifts the creative focus, doesn't it? Less manual execution, more conceptual design, curation. Your unique blend of influences becomes your signature.
And one last principle, super relevant for the fantastical worlds AI often excels at visually. Cameron's insight, especially from Avatar, the more alien the world.
The more you need to ground it in relatable details the audience recognizes.
Exactly. Fantastical Na'vi, but relatable family bonds, emotions, alien world, but recognizable gravity, water, ecology. Without those anchors, it's just a weird spectacle.
You don't connect.
Right. So with AI creating limitless visuals, this principle is key. How do you add familiar expressions to an alien? Recognizable architecture in a surreal city. Those grounding details make the fantastical relatable.
So while AI handles the how rendering, motion, these principles remind us the what and why, story, character, world, emotion are still fundamentally human.
Yeah. How can you ground your wildest AI creations in familiar details so they actually connect? That's a great question to chew on as you experiment.
Okay, so shifting gears a bit from the art of story to the science of control. The sources also went deep on tools for users who want more granular control, people who want to move past templates and really engineer the output.
And that usually leads to things like Comfy UI, right? Often paired with models like Animate Diff.
Exactly. Comfy UI, the material described it as a node-based graphical interface, so less like a simple form, more like a flowchart, or a circuit board for AI generation.
Each node is a specific task load, a model, apply a prompt, process an image.
Right, and you connect these nodes, wire them up like building blocks to create a totally custom workflow for exactly what you want.
The big insight there is that power of explicit control. You define every step, every connection, lets you combine things in ways simpler tools just can't.
But, and this is a big but, the material highlighted, it comes with a steeper learning curve. You're not just clicking buttons, you're building the engine.
And hardware requirements, specifically VRAM, right? Graphics, card memory.
Huge constraint, complex workflows just devour VRAM.
Which brings us to Animate Diff. Not a standalone tool, but a model used within things like Comfy UI to add motion, generate video.
Yeah, and the sources really flagged Animate LCM as a key development there.
LCM.
It's an optimized version or workflow for Animate, designed for speed and, crucially, lower VRAM usage.
Ah, okay. So more accessible on the hardware front.
Exactly. That's a huge insight for the technical side. Original Animate Diff models, like V3, might give slightly better quality, maybe less sticky motion.
But they need serious VRAM, 24 GB or more, often.
Right, putting them out of reach for many. Animate LCM workflows, using specific models like Photon LCM and LCM LoRa's, can run with much less VRAM. Sources suggested even under 24 GB, sometimes way less, depending on the setup.
So it's a trade-off. Maybe tiny bit less motion quality for way faster speed and better hardware compatibility.
That's the gist of it.
My reading went into a lot of detail on a typical Comfy UI Animate Diff workflow. Helps illustrate that control. They often organize these complex graphs into node groups or boxes just to keep things tidy.
Makes sense. And at the input stage, you load your source. For vid to vid, that means loading a video, but usually split into individual frames first.
Like 12, 15 frames per second was the recommendation. Good balance for AI processing.
Yeah, seems reasonable. You load those frames into nodes, often with options to control which ones cap the total, skip frames, load every nth frame, that sort of thing.
Then you load the actual AI models, the main checkpoint model, like Stable Diffusion.
Right, or SDXL, the VAE, for visual decoding. And importantly, the Animate Diff motion models. The sources noted different motion models give different styles of motion based on their training data.
And for those faster Animate LCM workflows, specific models like Photon LCM were recommended, plus maybe an LCM LoRa.
Exactly. LoRa's were explained as a kind of lightweight fine-tuning. They adjust the model for specific styles or concepts without needing a full retrain, less computationally heavy.
There was a technical nuance there about LoRa's strength, wasn't there?
Oh yeah, it depends. If you're using a base model plus an LCM LoRa on top, you might set the LoRa strength low, like 0.18 maybe, to get speed benefits and allow low CFG. But if the base model already has LCM baked in, like Photon LCM, you'd probably set the separate LCM LoRa strength to 1 because it's acting as the main LCM driver then.
Wow, okay. So the same setting means different things depending on the model setup. Complex.
It illustrates the level of detail you get into.
So how do you guide this generation beyond just text prompts? Control mechanisms. Control nets came up as fundamental.
Right. Control nets let you steer the AI based on other input data, not just text or a base image. They provide structure.
So instead of the AI just making stuff up, you feed it data from an image or video defining specific things you want it to follow.
Exactly. Like a depth control net analyzes the input's 3D structure, guides the AI to generate output with a similar spatial layout.
Or OpenPose analyzes character skeletons, makes the AI character mimic the input pose.
And you can combine them. Depth plus OpenPose gives much tighter control over scene and character action together.
But the sources noted a key technical point. Control net strength often needs to be lower in these dynamic workflows, like animative, compared to static images.
Yeah, seems it prevents artifacts, stops the AI struggling to add natural motion when the control is too rigid. It's a balance.
IP adapters, image prompt adapters were another powerful control mentioned.
Yeah, using an image to influence the generation, often alongside text, like saying, generate based on this text, but make it look like this image. Style, color, composition, even content.
And this led to that really advanced technique detailed in the material, using two separate IP adapters at once. Dual IP adapter workflow.
Right. The insight there is the potential for really creative blending.
How does that work?
You dedicate one IP adapter to the subject or character style, using an image of that character, ideally isolated. Then the second IP adapter influences the background or environment, using an image of the setting, ideally without people.
Okay. But how do you tell them which part of the image to influence?
Masking. You use a mask, basically a black and white image, to define areas. Subject adapter gets a mask covering the character. Background adapter gets a mask covering everything but the character, maybe by inverting the first mask.
Ah, clever. And the result is?
Really impressive creative control based on the examples. Combine a specific character style from one IP image with a totally different background style from the second. The material described things like an astronaut cat in a 1920s park. Or a praying mantis on a surreal river, a shrimp slug with flames. It lets you synthesize styles in a very controlled way by separating subject and background influence.
But the quality of those input IP adapter images is crucial, I bet.
Absolutely paramount, the sources emphasize.
Now, even with control nets and IP adapters, prompting is still important.
So crucial, yeah. You need good positive and negative prompts. The text clarifies the desired content, the actions, the negative prompt steers away from unwanted stuff.
The sources mention prompt structuring too, like using pretext and app text boxes in CompUI for universal elements.
Yeah, and prompt weighting to give certain words more influence. And a creative tip was using non-obvious terms like sculpture instead of person to nudge the AI away from generating typical human forms if you want something more stylized.
K-sampler settings, another control area. Steps, CFG, denoise.
Right, steps is how many refinement iterations. CFG is classifier-free guidance, how much it follows the prompt. And denoise is especially key for vid-to-vid.
And the material stressed that for fast LCM workflows, CFG is often set really low, like 1.
Yeah, sometimes. Counterintuitive if you're used to static image generation with CFG around 7, but it's how LCM gets speed, relying less on prompt guidance, more on rapid sampling.
And denoise in vid-to-vid, that controls how much it changes the original frames.
Exactly. 1.0 means ignore the input, generate fresh. Close to 0.0 means stick super close to the input. For vid-to-vid transformation, sources suggested values below 1.0, maybe 0.5 or 0.6, to allow change while keeping the original motion and composition. It's that balance, transformation versus fidelity.
And for making animations longer than the models, like attention span, the context window.
Yeah, the uniform context options, key technical solution to that limitation.
How's it work?
Models can only handle so many frames coherently at once, maybe 16 or 24. After that, things might flicker or change. Uniform context breaks the animation into smaller, overlapping segments. It generates segment by segment, but the overlap lets it maintain consistency across the whole thing by referencing the end of the previous segment.
So context length and overlap are the key parameters there.
Crucial for smooth results, yeah.
Yeah.
Balances consistency with processing time and VRAM.
And for changes during the animation, like morphing or data night.
Nodes like the batch prompt schedule came up, often from custom sets like fizz nodes. Lets you define prompt changes or blends at specific frame numbers.
Enables that prompt travel idea where the concept shifts over time.
Yeah. Though the material noted doing smooth prompt travel with IP adapter images like keyframing image influence is still tricky with that specific setup. An area still evolving.
Okay, you run the workflow, then output. Video Combine node makes the MP4 or GIF.
Right, controls for frame rate, looping, even ping pong. And a practical tip was using nodes like file name prefix, often from Mikey nodes, to auto-save outputs into organized folders. Stops the output directory becoming chaos.
Good tip. And finally, troubleshooting, hardware. VRAM is the main bottleneck, always.
Always the big one. Complex workflows, multiple control nets, high res, long frame counts, aggressive upscaling within the workflow. They all eat VRAM. CUDA errors, out-of-memory errors are common. Animate LCM helps, but it's not magic for low-end cards trying complex stuff.
And setting up comfy UI, custom nodes. Not always simple.
Often needs some tech comfort. Command line stuff, dependencies, maybe even C++ build tools for certain nodes like face swapping, which is still developing.
And no real preview for the full animation, just run short tests first.
Yeah, that was highlighted. Run 1632 frames maybe, lower settings, test the concept before committing to a long VRAM-heavy full run.
So this Comfy UI deep dive shows the power, the flexibility, but also the complexity.
Definitely. Needs patience, troubleshooting skills, awareness of hardware limits, but mastering it lets you craft highly custom animations, push boundaries, even manage those VRAM limits strategically with optimized workflows.
Okay, so you've got your visuals, maybe from easy tools or deep Comfy UI dives. You've kept story principles in mind, but you often need sound, right, to really finish it.
Crucial layer. Audio adds so much. Music, effects, and especially dialogue or narration.
And AI voice tools are getting pretty sophisticated.
Very.
My reading specifically mentioned Animaker Voice, powerful for realistic, human-like speech. The scale was wild, over 800 voices, 170-plus languages.
Massive library. But the key insight isn't just the quantity, it's the control they offer to make it sound natural, not robotic.
Right, what kind of controls?
Sources detailed things like adjusting speed, adding realistic breathe sounds. You can even control their volume and duration, inserting break pauses for rhythm or drama, and controlling pitch for tone, higher, lower, excited, somber.
Those fine-tuning controls sound vital for making AI narration expressive, believable.
Absolutely. Adds that polish, that storytelling layer without needing voice actors or using your own voice. Lowers another barrier.
Okay, so we've covered tools, techniques, creative principles, but we need to step back, look at the bigger picture too. This tech is advancing so fast, becoming so widespread, it raises big questions beyond just the how-to.
Yeah, the ethical considerations, the material you provided definitely touched on these vital points.
And they're not abstract, are they? They impact creators, audiences, the whole industry right now. Like intellectual property rights, that's a huge one.
Oh, massively complex, still evolving. When AI generates something, who owns it? The prompter, the AI developer, the creators of the training data?
It blurs all the traditional lines of copyright royalties.
Exactly. How do you assign ownership, value creativity, figure out compensation when the artist is partly a machine? Challenges the whole legal framework. Raises questions about human art versus AI-assisted art.
Then there's bias and discrimination, another critical issue raised.
Yeah. AI learns from its training data, right? Often scraped from the internet. If that data reflects existing societal biases, race, gender, stereotypes,
then the AI output can just perpetuate or even amplify those biases.
Leading to generated characters, visuals, stories that lack diversity, reinforce stereotypes, or worse. The sources suggest tackling this needs careful data curation, ongoing checks for fairness, conscious effort from everyone involved, vigilance.
Data privacy was another concern mentioned.
As these tools analyze inputs, prompts, user behavior, questions arise. How is that data used, stored, protected? Are your creations analyzed without consent? Could data be used to tailor content in ways you don't realize?
Need for transparency from the AI companies, right?
Yeah.
Clear policies, user awareness.
Consent, clear policies, yeah. Increasingly important.
And the impact on jobs, future of work in animation.
Always a big discussion. Concern about job displacement as AI automates tasks, simple motion, backgrounds, asset creation, maybe even storyboarding.
But the view in the sources wasn't necessarily total replacement, more of a shift.
That seemed to be the prevailing idea. A need for animators to adapt, upskill. Use AI as an assistant, handling the repetitive stuff, freeing up humans for higher-level creativity, complex performance, story, integrating AI elements into a cohesive vision. It changes the required skills.
And tying all this together, transparency and accountability.
Crucial principles. As AI content gets harder to distinguish from human work, being transparent about AI use is important. Ethically, managing expectations.
And accountability, taking responsibility for the output.
Yes. If AI content is biased, harmful, spreads misinformation, someone needs to be accountable. Can't just blame the algorithm.
These ethical points really underscore that AI animation isn't just about cool tech. Its development needs careful thought about the broader impact. Society, creativity, individual rights.
Understanding these nuances is key to navigating this field responsibly. It's about people, creativity, fairness, not just the tools.
Wow. Okay, we have really covered some ground in this deep dive, digging into all that material. Started with those accessible tools, Recraft, Hyoa, Kyber, Render Forest, lowering the barrier, letting anyone experiment with image generation, motion, talking heads, vid-do-vid.
Then plunged into the technical side. ComfyUI, AnimateDiff, the optimized Animate LCM for managing VRAM, dissecting control nets, IP adapters, that powerful dual IP adapter technique for blending styles, all while dealing with hardware limits and troubleshooting.
And we took that vital pause to remember storytelling fundamentals. Cameron's insights on knowing the rules to break them, focusing on character, being a sponge for ideas, grounding the fantastical principles that transcend the tools.
And adding polish with advanced AI voiceovers, using those fine controls for natural expression, before finally confronting the crucial ethical landscape: IP rights, bias, privacy, the future of work, and the absolute need for transparency and accountability.
Yeah, this exploration really shows AI animation is just brimming with potential. Creativity, efficiency. It's making things easier for newcomers while offering incredible new control for experts. And it's changing so fast. New tools, techniques, debates popping up constantly.
It really feels like more than just new tools. It's the start of a shift in how animation is even conceived, how it's made, how we experience it.
And it leaves us with a really provocative thought, doesn't it? As these AI tools get better and better, taking on tasks once only possible for skilled human artists, how will our definition of creativity itself evolve? And maybe more importantly, what's our collective responsibility in shaping this powerful new medium ethically, ensuring it reflects the diverse, complex world we actually live in? Today is a good day. Let's get started.